Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Marley's Videos. My name is Marley and here are my videos. I know, how did I come up with that name?
I'm just so creative.
Today's video is going to be about TV show recommendations based on your zodiac sign or astrological sign. I really got into astrology maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I actually got this idea from a friend, so I should probably shout her out. Thank you, Allie, for this idea. So based on whatever astrological sign you belong to, I'm going to recommend you 3 TV shows that you would probably like because they have similar qualities to you. So as we all know, Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. So if you're an Aries, you tend to be courageous and optimistic, as well as confident and honest. Some of your flaws are that you can be a bit impatient, impulsive, and aggressive. So Aries is a pretty fun sign. If you're an Aries, you're probably quite fun and outgoing. So some of the TV shows that I would recommend you would be Merlin. BBC's Merlin. This is a bit of an older show now, but it still remains to be one of my favorites. It follows the Arthurian legends. If you're familiar with King Arthur and Merlin the Magician and Sir Lancelot, it follows these characters and is more of a family-friendly show. I know a lot of medieval shows these days tend to be more graphic, like Game of Thrones or The Witcher, but Merlin is more family-friendly. It's really fun. There's cute romances, cute relationships, along with a lot of action, a lot of sword fighting, dragons. So that's why I would recommend it for Aries, to go along with their bravery, their impulsivity, their courageousness. The other recommendation I have for an Aries would be Stranger Things. A lot of you guys are familiar with that. It includes a lot of bravery in its characters, a lot of adventure and spontaneity, and a lot of optimism from a lot of the characters who happen to be mostly children. My third TV recommendation for an Aries would be Legacies on the CW. This is a show that's currently airing and is a spin-off show to The Vampire Diaries and the originals, if you're familiar with those TV shows. Legacies takes place at a supernatural school for vampires, werewolves, witches, and we follow the daughter of the villain from The Vampire Diaries, Klaus Michelson, his daughter Hope, who is a tribrid. She's a witch, werewolf, and vampire all put together. It follows her and her friends sort of dealing with these monsters that keep showing up to the school. Again, it's a really funny show with also a lot of magic. The next sign in the zodiac is Taurus, the bull. Some of the Taurus qualities are reliable, responsible, patient, but on the flip side, they can also be very stubborn, possessive, and uncompromising.
I think we all know a few Tauruses.
So for this sign, I'm going to recommend Jane the Virgin, which has 5 seasons. It follows a girl named Jane who is a virgin. She was raised by her grandmother and her mother. So her grandmother had a heavy influence on her with how religious she was and how she should save herself from marriage. So she's a virgin. However, she gets artificially inseminated and she is a pregnant virgin suddenly. It basically is a telenovela, so like a Spanish soap opera. It's really entertaining. Put it under Taurus because I do find it to be a reliable show. It sticks to a lot of its narratives. I find a lot of shows will just kind of get rid of storylines, not bring them back, aren't sure what they're doing. I feel like the writers really know what they're doing with the show. They know where it's going. It's reliable writing. The next 2 recommendations for Taurus are actually related. It's the show Arrow and then a show that was sort of a spin-off from that, which is The Flash. These are both DC superhero shows, which I think superheroes just fit for Taurus because again, it's about the reliability, responsibility. Heroes are taking responsibility and saving the world. So I thought these sort of themes really fit well if you're a Taurus. Moving on from Taurus, because I don't like that sign very much, we are going on to Gemini, the twins. Geminis are definitely very interesting signs. Some of their qualities include being curious, being adaptable. Sometimes they're seen as the twins because it's like they have 2 sides to them. They have 2 different personalities. Sometimes people will say they're very affectionate. They can also be inconsistent and unreliable, as well as indecisive. So for these shows that I'd recommend, the first one would be Glow, which stands for Glamorous Ladies of Wrestling, which is on Netflix. This is a show that is about ladies of wrestling. I believe it is based on a true TV show in the 80s. It is technically a comedy, but also there's a lot of drama. I recommended it for Geminis because the characters have to adapt a lot to whatever situation they're in, whether that's a TV show, oh now it's a Vegas show, oh now it's whatever, I can't remember. There's also a lot of characters, so I feel like the show kind of goes all over the place like a Gemini sometimes can. The next show I want to recommend for Gemini is Shadowhunters. This show can get some hate sometimes, but at the end of the day, I did really enjoy it, and that's why, again, I would recommend it for Gemini, because it has its ups and it does have its downs. It can be really enjoyable in terms of some of the relationships that form between the characters, but it can also be not as reliable when it comes to the plot, and there being plot holes and a lot of changes from the book that it was adapted from. Because of those inconsistencies, I would recommend it for the inconsistent Gemini. The third recommendation for Gemini would be Sex Education, which is also on Netflix. This is about a kid whose mother is a sex therapist, but I think because of that, like, oversaturation of sex in his life, he struggles with it himself. He struggles to do things to himself. In the beginning, he does start to counsel his own student body, start being like a sex counselor to his peers because he has this knowledge from his mother. A lot of other shenanigans kind of go on throughout the series. I recommended this for Gemini due to their curiosity. A lot of teenagers are obviously curious about sex in this show and in real life, so that kind of fits. The next sign is Cancer. Cancer. This is an interesting one as well. Some of their qualities include emotional, but loyal and imaginative, as well as manipulative and insecure. The recommendations for if you're a Cancer for me would be Skins. Skins is a bit of an older show. It's a British teenage drama with some comedy in there as well. The reason that I would recommend it for a Cancer is that I do find the characters to be rather moody and emotional as they are teenagers, and they're going through a lot of dramatic things. The characters have those characteristics of being insecure and manipulative, but I also think the show is imaginative and is sort of unique. The other show I'd recommend for a Cancer is Trinkets. This is a show on Netflix. It follows 3 girls who are both, what's the term, kleptomaniacs. They all have habits of stealing or shoplifting. It's sort of just like a teenage girl drama. There's only 1 season out so far, but I honestly really enjoyed it. It's very good to just binge your way through. Probably during this quarantine would be a great time. Again, the characters are very moody. I mean, they're teenagers, they're insecure, they're having these same issues that you as a Cancer would be experiencing potentially. The next series that I'm recommending is Dare Me, which is also on Netflix. A very bingeable show. I watched it very quickly, actually during this quarantine. It follows the lives of a group of teenagers, specifically these 2 girls who are best friends and maybe more. Basically, a new coach comes in and sort of ruffles up the dynamic that they have. A lot of drama goes on, and towards the end there's a bit of a murder mystery, I'll say. So again, I recommend this to a Cancer, the same reasons I did the other shows, as well as for their loyalty characteristic, because these girls display a lot of loyalty as well to their team and to their captain. Next we have Leo. They are the lion of the zodiac.
Leos, I mean, you'll definitely know if you know a Leo.
They are very passionate, outspoken, cheerful, and humorous. But at the same time, they can be very arrogant and self-centered and lazy. So the shows that I would recommend for a Leo would be That 70s Show, which I am currently watching. I recommend That 70s Show because it is a comedy, and Leos have a very good sense of humor, are very outgoing, like many of the characters in this show. I feel like Leos wouldn't want to sit through one of the more darker or fantasy-filled shows that I've mentioned so far. The next one that I would recommend is Heart of Dixie. This show ended quite a few years ago, however it's also a dramedy. There's a lot of comedy in there, a lot of silly stuff. I also feel like in comedies a lot of characters can be self-centered, like in this series, so Leos, you might relate to that. And finally, I'd like to recommend Glee for any Leos, also a show that's pretty well known, but it tends to be cheerful, it tends to be humorous, and again, a lot of the characters are very self-centered, similar to Leos. So those are the recommendations for a Leo. The next sign is Virgo, the virgins.
They're known to be the virgin. I'm not trying to like hate on Virgos.
Their characteristics are analytical, hardworking, and kind. On the flip side, they can be rather shy and critical of themselves and others, and just tend to worry a lot. So for the Virgo, I would recommend Sherlock. This was a show put on by the BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. It's a really great show. Each episode is rather long, so they're like little movies. It's a really funny show, but there's also obviously the mysteries that Sherlock is trying to solve, which is why it's so perfect for the analytical Virgo. You can watch the show and be trying to figure out the case along with Sherlock and John. The next show I'd recommend Virgo is Prison Break. This is another show that definitely gets your mind working. working as the main character Michael gets himself put in jail in order to help his brother break out of jail, and he has this master plan. He even tattooed his whole body with, I think, the blueprints of the jail. Michael is definitely Virgo material. He is really hardworking and analytical, and also on the shyer side. Like, Michael really might have been in Virgo. The third show for Virgos I would recommend is Mr. Robot. Again, this is a show that gets you thinking, and you want to be constantly analyzing the show because there's a lot of little tidbits in it, a lot of twists that maybe you're able to pick up on, maybe you're able to guess the twist. Again, you probably know the plot of Mr. Robot, but it follows a guy who is like an IT guy. He knows all about like coding and hacking. I don't know the right terms for all this stuff. He has like this hacking group that like is trying to take down E Corp, which is like Evil Corp. It basically represents big corporations that don't care about anyone else besides themselves, so they're trying to like hack and take them down. I just realized I wasn't filming for a huge chunk of this video, and I have to re-say everything. Okay, the next sign that we're coming to is Libra.
The lovely Libra, the best sign.
So some of a Libra's characteristics are they are extremely social, they love to be around people, they're also very cooperative and diplomatic, fair. However, they can also be very indecisive, wallowing in self-pity, so to speak, and they avoid confrontation. So the shows that I would recommend for a Libra would be Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls follows the lives of a mother and a daughter, so it's very focused on the mother-daughter relationship. They live in a small town, and it's basically just following as Rory, the daughter, goes through school, and it is her dream to go to Yale. There's a lot of relationships that go on in the show. The reason that I chose it for Libra is because they are such social creatures, and Gilmore Girls has a lot of socializing. There's a lot of dialogue in the show, a lot of talking between the characters. I also find the characters are indecisive, like Libras can't decide what they want to do with their life, can't decide which boy they want to date, that sort of thing. And Rory, who's the daughter, has very good morals, similar to a Libra as well. She really believes in justice, being fair. She's very studious, so that also fits Libras. The next recommendation for Libra would be My Mad Fat Diary. This is a British show that ended a few years ago. It follows a girl named Ray who really struggles with her self-image, as she does see herself as fat, as in the title, and she deals with a lot of mental health issues like depression. I chose this for Libra because of their interest in social issues and equality, because My Mad Fat Diary does deal with mental health, it does deal with LGBTQ and self-love and other things like that, so I thought that Libras would really enjoy seeing that, like I did. The third recommendation for Libras is similar for the reason I chose it, Good Trouble, which is a spin-off of The Fosters. There are a few of the characters from The Fosters who have grown up and have finished university. One of them has gone on to work for a new tech company. Another one has gone to work in law. It also follows the lives of their roommates, some of which include a plus-size model, an artist, a comedian, who are all very like diverse in their backgrounds. Almost like too much. Like, there's honestly a lot going on in the show, but I love it. It's really good to see all those social issues going on. Black Lives Matters is a topic, sexism in the workplace is a topic. Like, they take on a lot of stuff, so that's why I recommend it for a Libra out of all the signs. Next we get to Scorpio, the Scorpion. Scorpios are great, they're responsible, they're very brave and passionate. They are a water sign, so they are very emotional, you know, they have that passion. However, they can also be very closed off and distrusting and jealous and secretive. The shows that I would recommend for a Scorpio would start with How to Get Away with Murder. This show clearly has murder, so the characters have to be very secretive and very distrusting, which sort of fits with the Scorpio. Also, because these characters are often covering up murder, they have to be resourceful and they have to be brave and passionate as well, totally encompassing basically all the Scorpios' qualities, which is why I would recommend it for them. I'm sure they could relate to the characters. I mean, hopefully you haven't committed murder, but I think you should still relate. The next show I'd recommend is The Vampire Diaries. Again, this show is one that has a lot of twists and turns. A lot of characters have to be brave in moments, as it does deal with vampires, werewolves, and witches. A lot of crazy things are constantly going on. At the same time, there's a lot of distrusting and jealousy going on, as there is a love triangle between Elena and the two vampire brothers, Damon and Stefan. There's also a lot of plot twists that involve, you know, villains suddenly being being people that we had trusted. So it kind of goes along with Scorpio's vibe. The third TV show for Scorpios would be One Tree Hill. I recommend this as it is a teen drama with, again, a lot of twists and turns. The characters have to be very brave, as a lot of them have careers where you have to be brave, such as professional basketball players, fashion designers, musicians. Those type of things really need passion and bravery, which I think Scorpios can relate to and respect. And then we get to Sagittarius, which is another really fun sign as it is one of the fire signs. Sagittariuses I see as like the adventurous ones of the group. They're very generous, they have a very good sense of humor and are quite idealistic. However, they're sort of the people who would just say anything without thinking, and they're impatient and have a lot of empty promises. So for Sagittarius, I sort of pick shows that are sort of all over the place, starting with The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. As I said, Sagittarius are very adventurous, so this show does have a lot of adventures, as it says in its name, and it does have a really good sense of humor at the end of the day. It obviously is about Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which is based on, I believe, the comic book. This is more of like a darker take on that. Then I would recommend the show Shameless. This is one of my absolute favorite shows, and it has been for a while. Again, it sort of has a chaotic energy similar to a Sagittarius. The characters definitely just say anything and they don't really care, and it has a really good sense of humor as it is a comedy and drama. It follows a family who lives in the south side of Chicago and deals with a lot of issues of not having enough money. Their parents have kind of abandoned them. Their dad's an alcoholic who takes advantage of them. But it's really about all these kids having to take care of themselves and all of the weird situations that they get in. The final recommendation is Legends of Tomorrow. This is a superhero show that is set in the Arrowverse along with Arrow and Flash and Supergirl. However, you don't have to have watched those to watch this. It's the funniest show of the bunch. It's kind of the most unique one, and they go on a lot of crazy adventures in this show. So I definitely recommend that to any Sagittarius. Then we get to Capricorn. So Capricorns are a little boring, I have to say. They're very like responsible and disciplined with a lot of self-control. They can also be a know-it-all and condescending and sort of unforgiving of others. So for this sign, I would recommend the show Smallville. Smallville is definitely an older show. Not sure if you could still find it out there, probably on DVD. It is the origin story for Superman. We see Kal-El or Clark or whatever as a teenager growing up, figuring out his powers. We also see Lois and Lex and all those like fun characters that you know. I chose this for Capricorn because it is sort of like a structured show. It is sort of like disciplined, like it follows the mythology in the comic books. It doesn't really stray away from the typical, oh, there's a villain for this episode, defeat it, like there's a message to it. Like it's a very like structured kind of show, unlike some of the ones I've mentioned that go all over the place. The other show I'd recommend is Dawson's Creek. Again, another older show. I guess Capricorn, this is what you get old shows. But again, I feel like Dawson's Creek sort of has a formula to it. It's a drama. There's a lot of talking between the characters, a lot of dialogue, like you know what you're gonna get from it. Also feel like the characters in Dawson's Creek can be sort of know-it-alls and sort of be condescending as well. So maybe you can relate to that, Capricorns. Final recommendation for Capricorn would be a newer show on Netflix called Spinning Out. This follows the life of a figure skater who is haunted by the fact that she had an injury where she hit her head and now is sort of struggling getting back into figure skating. However, that's all she's ever known. We also see that her mom is bipolar and she has grown up dealing with that, and herself is now bipolar as well. This is a really great binge-worthy show. I would recommend it because of the whole discipline element. Figure skaters have to be very disciplined and have a lot of self-control. However, at times characters do get out of control, so maybe that would be good for you Capricorns to see that you can let loose sometimes.
It's okay, like relax.
Now we're on to Aquarius. Aquariuses are very interesting people. They are very original and independent and also progressive. However, they can often be temperamental and aloof. So for Aquarius, the first show that I would recommend would be the show The Fosters, which I mentioned earlier. This show follows a family who has taken a lot of different foster children. There's a lot of diversity going on. There's a lot of originality in each of these characters and just in the premise premise of the show. I don't think there's been that many shows like it. To go along with that, it's also very progressive, as in the family, the main couple is actually a lesbian couple. It's also a mixed race couple. Like, there's a lot of progressive themes like that throughout the show. The next recommendation for Aquarius would be Sense8. This is also a very original idea, which I think Aquariuses would love. It's kind of hard for me to explain it, but basically there's these 8 individuals who have like this weird psychic connection. And again, they're from all different parts of the world. There's some in Korea, some in the UK, Africa, India, all over. And it does feel very independent as well. The third show would be Looking for Alaska, which has only 1 season as it is based off a book, which I think makes it very like original and independent. We haven't seen that too much, where books are getting adapted into shows and just staying as 1 season. We see it with some series like Shadowhunters, as I mentioned, or Vampire Diaries, but we aren't seeing as many standalone books being adapted into 1 season of a show and then that's it. So I found that to be very interesting. To go along with the progressive themes, it also touches on a lot of social issues as well, which I think would make it interesting for an Aquarius. Finally, we come to the baby of the zodiac, the final sign, and that is Pisces. I'm sure you're familiar with Pisces. They're one of the water signs, so they are very emotional. They are very sensitive and wise and known to be artistic. However, they can be very fearful and sad and try and escape reality. So the shows I picked out for this include Once Upon a Time. This is a great show that represents escaping from reality, as it does start out in reality and then become engrossed in the fantasy and fairy tale world. So this is really great for someone who really wants to escape from their life like Pisces do. The next show I'd recommend is This Is Us, which follows a family throughout generations. We have a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards of this family's lives, and it is known to be a very touching and very sad show. So that is perfect for Pisces, who are often feeling sad and emotional. I think they would really relate to the characters. The third show I'd recommend would be Atypical, which is on Netflix. It's a family dramedy, I guess. There's drama and comedy within it, and the main character is atypical. He is on the autism scale, so we're seeing him adjust to school and adjust to dating as he is a teenager, and then eventually figuring out what he wants to do for college. We also follow the rest of his family members and his friends, and the reason I would recommend this to a Pisces is I feel like it would definitely be a good show for people who have compassion and can really empathize with all of the struggles going on. But because it's a comedy as well, I think it'd be good to cheer you up, Pisces, because you don't have to be sad all the time. And if you are a particularly fearful Pisces, hopefully this show could help you to be brave as well. So those are all my recommendations for each of the zodiac signs. I feel like this was really long.
Honestly, my voice hurts.
But let me know if you like this video. Hopefully I helped you with some recommendations, and maybe I'll do more videos like this based on astrology, because it is one of the things that I'm very interested in. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all staying safe and staying sane during this self-isolation period. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.